Hi, this is Mrs. Steelman, and this is the Faerie Queene, Book 1, Canto 1. This is stanzas 1 through 18, and this is the beginning part of the epic poem written by Edmund Spenser. So you need to download the handout. One thing you will notice is that the handout that you are downloading looks like it's a little bit different size in print. It might look a little bit bigger and it might be in 4 pages where this is one continuous line of stanzas. The other handouts that you will be downloading will be in 2 columns, but what you see on the screen will simply be one long line of stanzas. That's just the format that this particular notebook has. We're going to get started. What I'm going to be doing is a little bit of annotating on the side in red, just like I did in the introduction to Spenser. What I would like you to do is also do some annotating. I will not be writing down everything that I'm talking about, but I do expect you to especially take a look at words, especially when I tell you what words mean. Those might be particular Renaissance words, or I might ask you to take a look at different kinds of spelling. But whatever the case, what you're going to be doing is annotating this poem and then bringing it to class tomorrow. So let's begin. Gentle night was pricking on the plain, y-clad in mighty arms and silver shield, wherein old dints of deep wounds did remain, the cruel marks of many a bloody field. Yet arms till that time did he never wield. His angry steed did chide his foaming bit, as much disdaining to the curb to yield. Full jolly knight he seemed and fair did sit, as one for knightly jousts and fierce encounters fit. So that's the first stanza. I just want to point out a few things about it. On the very first line, that pricking on the plain is really spurring. And I mention this because we know that Red Cross Knight is on his horse, and he's definitely all armed up and ready to go. On the third line where it says old dints of deep wounds, that means he's wearing armor worn by other Christians of the time. And so that's important to know. Those old dints of deep wounds means that his armor, or especially his shield, has dents in it, which tells you that he's been fighting in other adventures as well. You're going to notice that the spelling is a little bit different. I hope that you noticed in the word never, it's N-E-U-E-R, so use equals these in a lot of cases. And then also at the bottom of the stanza, that word full, it looks like aioli, but it's really jolly. So eyes are eyes equals J's. So that's important to know too. But on his breast a bloody cross he bore, the dear remembrance of his dying Lord, for whose sweet sake that glorious badge he wore, and dead as living ever him adored. Upon his shield the like was also scored, for sovereign hope which in his help he had. Right faithful true he was indeed in word, but of his cheer did seem too solemn sad. Yet nothing did he dread, but ever was he dread. And so if we go down to this next stanza, scored actually means incised, which means that his shield had dents in it, like I said before, and sometimes even cuts that went right through. And that was just to let you know that he was a man who actually used it quite a bit. The word sad down below means grave, and then dread is dreaded or feared. So those will help you out a bit. The basic part of this whole stanza is talking about the fact that he is really fighting for God. And that's evident by the badge that he wears, by the Red Cross, and also just that he is following a code of honor. But basically everything that he does has a spiritual sense to it. Upon a great adventure he was bond, the great Gloriana to him gave. that greatest glorious queen of fairyland, to win him worship and her grace to have. Which of all earthly things he most did crave, and ever as he rode his heart did earn, to prove his puissance in battle brave, upon his foe and his new force to learn, upon his foe a dragon horrible and stern. So let's go back to the beginning there. Gloriana is actually the queen, and we're talking about Elizabeth the First. So she's actually given him the message that he needs to go and help Una. So this actually comes from her. So puissance, a little bit further down, is a word, if you've taken French, you might know that word. And so that's might. So that should help you out a little bit, I hope. And we'll go on. A lovely lady rode him fair beside, upon a lowly ass more white than snow, yet she much whiter, but the same did hide under a veil that wimpled was full low, and over all the black stole she did throw, as one that inly mourned, so was she sad, and heavy sat upon her palfrey slow, seemed in heart some hidden care she had, and by her in a line a milk-white lamb she led. So we have a lot going on in this particular stanza. I want you to notice all the white that's mentioned, and this should at least give you a little bit of a clue that red cross is associated with the color red, and Una is associated with the color white, even though she has on a black cape, but she's leading a little lamb, and that should give you the idea of that has something to do with Christ. So she, in her purity, has gone for help because her parents, the king and queen, have been abducted by a dragon, so she needs some help. The word wimpled that you see in one of these lines, that her veil is wimpled, that is just means that it's lying in folds. And the palfrey, which is on the next line there, is talking about a riding horse. So that would be different from a horse that would be used in war. Not a war horse, but just something that she would be riding. Very slowly, probably. And then she's leading this lamb on a leash. A line is leash. So that should help you. So pure and innocent as that same lamb she was in life and every virtuous lore, and by descent from royal lineage came, of ancient kings and queens that had of yore their scepters stretched from east to western shore, and all the world in their subjection held, till that infernal fiend with foul uproar forwasted all their land and them expelled, whom to avenge she had this night from far compelled. So it talks in this particular passage that she comes from royalty. So we know that she is a princess that is born to a king and queen, and that she also not only comes from royalty but also from innocence. And that's important to know because Red Cross would want to do anything that he could for her because of that. So we know that there's a dragon, and that would be that infernal fiend that is trying to hurt her family. And so we don't know too much about her parents at this point. All we know about her is that she is in white and that she has enlisted the help of Red Cross. Behind her far away a dwarf did lag, that lassie seemed in being everlast, or wearied with bearing of her bag, of needments at his back. Thus as they passed, the day with clouds was sudden overcast, and angry Jove, a hideous storm of rain, did pour into his lemon's lap so fast, that every wight to shroud it did constrain, and this fair couple eke to shroud themselves were vain. So one thing to notice is that the dwarf is really not a slave. He would be considered a servant, someone that would be helping her and willingly helping her. So he had needlements on his back, so we might think of that as a backpack. And then we also know that there is a storm coming up. And this storm is something that's going to be a problem for them. It says an angry Job. I want you to notice that I there. That's really a J. Did pour into his lemon's lap. So lemon's lap, lemon is the earth. And the fair couple eke, the word eke, and you're going to see that a lot in this poem. Eke equals also. So there was nothing that this poor couple could do except to try to stay out of the rain or find a place to get shelter, and that's what's going to happen next. And forced to seek some covert nigh at hand, a shady grove not far away they spied, that promised aid, the tempest to withstand, whose lofty trees, clad with summer's pride, did spread so broad that heaven's light did hide, not perceivable with power of any star, and all within were paths and alleys wide, with footing worn and leading inward far, fair harbor that them seemed, so in they entered are. So we know here that there is a forest with so many trees that the light can't get in. And this is important to know because that makes it dark. And that's very important that they're going into a dark place. They are trying to find shelter, but it gives us this ominous feeling that something is going to be very, very wrong when they go in. And forth they passed with pleasure forward led, joying to hear the birds' sweet harmony, which therein shrouded from the tempest dread, seemed in their song to scorn the cruel sky. Much can they praise the trees so straight and high, the sailing pine, the cedar proud and tall, the vine-prop elm, the poplar never dry, the builder oak, sole king of forests all, the aspen good for staves, the cypress funeral. And so this whole section is really about trees and their purpose, which you might wonder why in the world he would even care about such a thing. But it should give you the idea that nature is generally purposeful and good. So usually when we think of a grove of trees, we don't think of something very wrong going on there. But that's exactly what does happen. The laurel mead of mighty conquerors, and poet sage, the fir that weepeth still, the willow worn of forlorn paramours, the yew obedient to the bender's will, the birch for shafts, the sallow for the mill, the myrrh sweet bleeding in the bitter wound, the warlike beech, the ash for nothing ill, the fruitful olive and the platane round, the carver holm, the maple seldom inward sound. So all of these trees and their purposes are what's talked about in this section. And it's kind of interesting the way he does it because he actually uses a lot of parallel structure in this particular part of the poem in order just to talk about what's going on in nature and how those trees were probably used during the Renaissance period. Led with delight, they thus beguile the way until the blustering storm is overblown. When weening to return whence they did stray, they cannot find that path which first was shown, but wander to and fro in ways unknown. So now we know that they're getting lost. Furthest from end then, when they nearest ween, and that's the wind, that makes them doubt their wits be not their own. So many paths, so many turnings seen, that which of them to take, in diverse doubt they been. So they're very nervous in this section.